Hello, Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we will understand about the dopamine pathway. So in this way, here is the brain of the person here shown in the diagram. This is the striatum. This is the ventral tegmental area and the substantia nigra, and this is the nucleus accumbens. And on the other hand, the here is the thalamus to the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So the higher brain cortex are present in the upper part, and this is important for the learning and storing of the memory. So here is the ventral tegmental area, which the target to the nucleus accumbens. This pathway is the VTA to the neck pathway. So the VTA to neck is the nigrostriatal pathway. Remember, and this is the blue color shows that is the ventral tegmental area to the cortex. This ventral tegmental area to the cortex is the mesocortical pathway, while this is the pituitary gland, and on the other hand, remember, this is the substantia nigra to the striatum is the nigrostriatal pathway. So this the ventral tegmental area to the cortex is and the ventral tegmental area to the nucleus accumbens, and the hypothalamus to the pituitary, as well as the substantia nigra to the striatum is the pathway. So the mesocortical pathway, nigrostriatal pathway, VTA to neck, hypothalamus to the pituitary is the tuberoinfundibular pathway, substantia nigra to the striatum is the nigrostriatal pathway. This pathway is very significant, and the separate function of this pathway we will understand with that detail. So the function of the dopamine is a neurotransmitter which that release in the brain, not release in the periphery of the nervous system. The function is the brain control, the movements, balance, its and basically tics and involuntary movements. Less movements means the dopamine decrease in Parkinson disease and other neurodegenerative disease. Emotions can also important in emotions excess. Dopamine lead to euphoria and hallucination, psychosis and others. If the deficiency will lead to Parkinson disease and other neurodegenerative disease. So the balance is very crucial. I have a video which that in the description below. So you can watch that the dopamine fasting for the normal regulation of the dopamine in our body. Let's understand about one by one the mesocortical pathway, nigrostriatal pathway, tuberoinfundibular pathway, and nigrostriatal pathway. These four pathway is different. Responsible the function of the functionality of the pathway is different on the basis of the different pathway. So remember about that things. This is the interneurons and the excitatory neurons involved. Like the dopaminergic neuron will excite the whole brain pathway. The mesocortical pathway contains cognition, motivation, and emotional regulation. The cognition is a higher level thinking process such as planning, decision making, problem solving. In this way, you are also want to learn if so the cognition will increase to the mesocortical pathway. A motivation associated with the drive and ambition to pursue goals and encourage in activity. Emotional regulation means help in managing emotion and responding appropriate appropriately to the social cues and a lot more things. So anyhow, the nigrostriatal pathway, if you are think about that, so the nigrostriatal pathway is the substantia nigra to the striatum. So remember about that things in the brain. So it is the substantia nigra in midbrain are present, and this midbrain basically contain basically a motor function. So remember the motor function and movement controls. So remember, and on the other hand, the tuberoinfundibular pathway here. You can see the tuberoinfundibular pathway is prolactin production control and inhibit the prolactin. What is the prolactin? Prolactin basically, whenever the dopamine will be rise, so the prolactin ultimately decrease. And in this, the dopamine is responsible for the inhibition of the prolactin. What is the function of the prolactin? For increase the dopamine to increase the libido. So libido is important. Whenever the prolactin decrease, libido will be increased. While the prolactin will decrease, libido increase, and prolactin increase to libido decrease. Orgasm to stimulate the prolactin more increase, and prolactin due to damage condition. And on the other important thing is that whenever after the sex the prolactin will be rise and dopamine will decrease. That is why the tension stress will occur after the sex. Nigrostriatal pathway for motor function and the movements. So in this way, this is the important nigrostriatal pathway for the movement and the motor function, like the muscle movement. Degeneration of the dopamine neurons in substantia nigra pars compacta is a hallmark of Parkinson disease and the ADHD. Important things you should need to understand that is the whole story about the dopamine. So our dopamine function properly, so our nervous system function properly. The less dopamine to less cognition, less motivation, less emotion, and less pathway for motor function and movement, and the prolactin regulation also. Let's understand about the bigger picture to understand the dopamine receptor. So in this way, here is the presynaptic neuron is also known as the dopaminergic neuron. This dopamine neurotransmitter release, as it is known as the neurotransmitter exocytosis. Whenever the trigger of the stimulus will trigger to excite this dopaminergic neuron to exocytosis of the neurotransmitter. For example, input of the happiness. For example, you win, so it will release. This dopamine will release. So whenever you will get the positive reward, so in this will lead to get the positive reward. Whenever you will win the game, you will pass and you will success. So short-term memory and the speaking and thinking can be possible due to the dopamine receptor D1, and it is more than the others. And the on the other hand, the receptor 2 is basically agonist and antagonist also used for this target, and that dopamine 2 receptor is less as compared to the 1, and it is involved in addiction response and or alter. So agonist and antagonist target in this receptor, and this is basically the addiction, and get the positive reward will lead to again excitation of the dopaminergic neuron by the drug. Receptor 3 is ability to fluctuate on the level of dopamine. If the dopamine will increase, so the receptor 3 will increase. While the also fluctuation of the 4 receptor found in retina of your eyes and cerebral cortex, amygdala, hypothalamus and pituitary. While the dopamine receptor 5 is same like 1 and located together. So remember, the receptor 4 is mattering more. Postsynaptic neuron is so found in retina, cerebral cortex and amygdala, so function properly our nervous system. Suppressant, dopamine suppressant inhibitors, the supplements, and the trigger also used. The receptor agonist will lead to increase the excitation of the neurotransmitter, releasing of the neurotransmitter, while the receptor antagonist will inhibit. So inhibit the releasing of the neurotransmitter. I hope you make sense about that. If you like my video, please make sure to subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video. For this one, bye.